the 71st day of class, we learned about Great Zimbabwe. Now, Great Zimbabwe is an example that changes this prior Eurocentric narrative of history. And what I mean by that is that in the past, and even the not so distant past, history books were written from the lenses of Europeans and European imperialism. And Great Zimbabwe is an example to broaden your perspective from that old model. And we went to the gym, and not a bad thing to do. And we went to the gym, and I asked you to sketch our gym. And here's an example. And this individual looked at the gym, and you can see there's bleachers, and here's a basketball hoop. Now, here's the mats for wrestling. Now, as a wrestling coach, I can tell you the mats don't exactly look like that. In fact, it looks like a tree. So I look at this, and some is good. The stairs are good. Some of it's out of scale. Some things are missing. And, I've looked at 100 of these and a wide range of perspectives on how we sketched. So how did we do so? So here are some examples. Now, this particular group, the majority of people engaged in groupthink and went to this high point and started sketching from here. Maybe it was the ease of writing on this wall. However, I'm going to respectfully disagree from their perspective that they are missing everything that's behind them. Now, this individual is not engaging in groupthink. He's going from his own perspective, but again, the same problem. Unless he moves around to the back, which in fact he did, you're not going to get a broad perspective. Some people were collaborating. Some people decided to work together and take a piece. Now, other people, they went solo. Now, this individual sitting in the center of the basketball court, probably getting a good vantage point of the basketball court, but again, nothing up here. This individual is trying to get the broad perspective, and without moving, I don't think you're going to be able to do it all. Now, these people are on the back wall of the gym, and from a sitting perspective, they are missing some things. So anyway, this was a difficult drill, and I intentionally was ambiguous to how to do this because, I didn't want it to be particularly easy. I wanted you to grapple with scale. At what scale do I draw things? What level of detail do I bring? From what perspective? Did I move? Did I stay stationary? What did I focus on? What should I add? What shouldn't I add? Some people's schematics were very free from any detail. I couldn't tell what it was. And other people meticulously drew the schematic where they wrote the name of the Trojans, and they drew a beautiful picture of the logo. And they spaced the wrestling circles, exactly 9 of them. I've seen 12. I've seen 6. In reality, there's 9. Now, unfamiliar items. A lot of people saw an unfamiliar item like that big yellow crane, and they're saying, well, I'm not going to include it because I don't know. What if that's really pertinent to the story? If you don't know something, it doesn't mean it's not important. What's the significance? What did you add? What did you not add? Now, I want you to imagine adding centuries of time to this process. It's not an easy thing to do. And the point of this was this applies to learning about Great Zimbabwe. So let's start with a piece of art. And this piece of art reveals what life was like in Great Zimbabwe. And you see a lot of beautiful colors and very active. And I also see men and women and children all there together. That leads me to believe there's some egalitarianism. And we see food being sold, and we see ivory being sold, and we see a boatload of gold, gold bracelet, gold earrings, gold necklaces, gold coins. And in addition to this, we see this art, this pottery and this sculpture in the bird shape. And we also see this wall, and so it's enclosed. That leads me to believe it's some city. It's some degree of safety with the wall, and it seems like a good energy. People are active and together, and there's commerce going on, and there's some prosperity going on. So the adage that a picture can say 1,000 words, I think it's right in this case. So let's compare today versus yesterday. And yesterday's class, we learned about the West African kingdoms, Ghana, Mali, Songhai. Hopefully you have a grasp of those 3. Now, if you look at Great Zimbabwe, it is far away. This is in Southeast Africa. Completely different vibe, because Africa, as you know, is an immense continent. So we cannot lump Great Zimbabwe with Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. West Africa, Southeast Africa, different flavor, different vibe. And in the big picture, it's because of this. Now, before we even talk about Africa, the first trade network I taught you, and I beat you over the head with this, is the Silk Road. Now, the Silk Road were a series of roads that connected China to Rome, and people were interacting in all sorts of ways in terms of commerce, in terms of love, in terms of hate, ideas, religion, disease, you name it. And then the West African trade network, the Trans-Saharan trade network, we learned about this yesterday, and we see it's connecting. And again, the same sort of things were flowing along West African routes. Now, Great Zimbabwe is part of the Indian Ocean trade route. This is the third main trade route that I'm hopefully teaching you how people are interacting. So it's another example of how hemispheric interactions increased during this time period of history. So if you see, Great Zimbabwe here in Southeast Africa, it is connected to this vast Indian Ocean trade network, one of three that were going on at this time, and all three were increasing hemispheric interactions. Now, in terms of the nuts and bolts of Great Zimbabwe was the largest of 150 major stone ruins scattered throughout modern Zimbabwe and Mozambique. And this picture gives you an idea about what it looked like. And it was comprised of the Shona people, or the Bantu people. And archaeologists estimate there were about 18,000 people, and they were living a very prosperous existence with animal husbandry, crop cultivation, gold trading along that Indian trade network. And here's a photo of modern Shona people, and you can see it's a similar energy from that picture. It seems very prosperous, very egalitarian, beautiful colors, lots of things to buy. So they're still there and still doing their thing. Now, the word Zimbabwe is a Shona word for stone houses. And this history is still alive in the memory of Southeast Africans. And we were just in the gym. A basketball hoop is 10 feet high. Now, imagine stacking 33 of them on top of each other and building a wall that high. This is some advanced stuff. This is strong, strong evidence. You could even call proof of pretty significant civilization if you're able to build structures of that magnitude. So the fact that the country is named after this, I feel, reveals a pride and hearkening back to the past, to remember their past. Now, with Great Zimbabwe, there were three main areas, just like our gym. We have a wrestling area, we have a cheerleading area, we have a basketball area. Now, the first area was the hill complex. This is where the higher ups, the top people, were living. And it was a spiritual center, it was a religious center. They even found different bones of young calf bones to reveal they were eating better than everybody. So this was the top tier people. And again, with civilization, you have social classes. This is evidence of civilization. Now, the second area was called the Great Enclosure, 328 feet high, which maybe the mid-tier social class were living. And then the Valley Ruins was where the regular people lived with these daga dwellings, which were the common houses. So again, it's clear evidence of an advanced civilization. Despite its years of abandonment and disrepair, you can see Zimbabwe was an advanced civilization. Now, for a long time, it was attributed to non-African builders. Now, this is an example of historical bias. It's an example of racist beliefs. Historians said it was either Phoenician or Greek or Egyptian, because these structures were so advanced, certainly Africans couldn't create that. That's a very biased racist notion. Now, again, it shows you that history can be used as a tool to further a present narrative. Now, it emphasizes the need for us as history students to look for evidence and historiography, good source or bad source, and squashing false narratives. When you hear falsehoods, you got to put a kibosh on that quick, because if you look at history, false narratives have caused great unpleasantness throughout history, and that's a euphemism. You could even say false narratives have fouled everything up a lot of times in history, so we have to squash it when we can. And again, culture reflects art, art reflects culture. This is an example of Zimbabwe soapstone art, and you can see this is my favorite one, the mother and the daughter, and you see this, and this symbol kept popping up all over the place, this bird, and whether it was religious or whether it signified the ruler or a combination of the two, it was a motif that we saw again and again and again. And it's still a point of pride. And again, it changes the old narrative. Here is a soapstone bird on the modern Zimbabwe flag, which is a tip of the hat to say, here's where we've come from, and this is what we created in the past, and hey, we're still here. Bearing in mind, modern Zimbabwe has only been around since 1979. That's not ancient history. So, final place I want to put in the final image I want to give you to put in the broader construct. Here we are in this era of expanding hemispheric interactions. And here's the Silk Road, and this is a lot of hecticness going on. Now, we've already learned about the Western side of things. Now, the non-Western side, the African side, we can see the West African empires of Ghana, Mali, Songhai, and here is Zimbabwe. Now, Zimbabwe is, again, different than these West Africans, but again, an example of African civilization that was around during this time. So I hope you learned a few things, and I enjoyed seeing your schematics of the gym. And again, when you hear falsehood, please squash it, and that's important as historians to do. So thank you for watching.